have with us James Massey, Managing Director for Facilities Management of MRI Software, joining CMtoday. Let's hear from him. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Massey.
No problem.
So MRI recently integrated FSI under its umbrella. Can you talk about the strategy of bringing FSI under you and why did you do it?
So we're a global property technology platform organisation, and we always look for the best solutions in the market. We had a gap in our existing ecosystem where we didn't have a full-size facilities management, enterprise-level facilities management solution. FSI was the best on the market, is still the best on the market, and so therefore that's why we acquired that. We wanted to close that loop between property management, asset management, energy management, and then facilities management was one of the gaps. Basically, that's why we acquired it, and now it's become one of those critical parts now in our future and our success.
So MRI is bringing a lot of products to the Middle East. Can you talk about those?
MRI globally have vast amounts of solutions. However, not every solution fits in every region. So we have ones that are dedicated to particular verticals and particular geographical areas. What we launched yesterday is the fact we're going to be bringing 4 solutions to this region from our global platform. One of them is a pure play property management solution called MRI Horizon, which has been in the Middle East before some years ago. We're going to be bringing that back now to this area now because it can be localized to this particular region. We're bringing an energy management product, which has already got some relationships in the Middle East. So around energy management, energy solutioning, again, we're going to be bringing that one to market. Self-service module, so whereby we can drive more services digitally online. So again, that one's coming to region. And then one around space management, space utilization, presence management, which was born out of one of our acquisitions in the US. And that solution's been used globally as well. So they're the 4. So property management, energy management, presence management and space management, and then a digital self-service solution.
So how has the UAE market evolved as compared to more mature markets like the UK and US?
I think this region is demanding. I think it wants technology very quickly. I think that's a great thing. I think this region, of course, has rapidly grown over the last sort of 20 years. I think it's now probably catching up on the technology side. And we want to be one of the partners that can obviously deliver that. There's some great people in this region. And again, with every acquisition that we make, we also acquire great people, not just great technology, but great people. So for me, the 21 staff that I've got based in this geographical region here are great technology advocates. The more that we can get out there, get in front of prospects and customers, the more technology we can bring. I think UAE specifically, obviously the huge amounts of buildings that of course exist in this region, integration with building management systems is obviously a key one, and bringing some of those new future techs that we have around digitization services is probably the key driver.
Automation systems, adoption of technology gained a lot of popularity during the pandemic. Has the popularity diminished? What are the trends?
I think if anything, it's grown actually. I think there's more of a desire to draw and push more services online. I think the digitization now of people wanting things at a moment in time to suit themselves is absolutely the future now. I think the COVID pandemic has changed it's changed organizations' service delivery methodology, and I think it's changed people's expectations of tech. They need things instantly. They need more data, more information, more ability to transact digitally more than ever before, because people have changed the way that they act. People no longer go to the shop to go and do a transaction, or they no longer operate Monday to Friday 9 till 5. They now expect things to be far more at a time to themselves, and I think that's only going to continue more. So we're seeing that globally. We're seeing that demand for more digitalization services, hence our launch yesterday of one of our services in this region.
Okay, so what are the key challenges faced by service providers like MRI Software in 2022 and 2023?
I think with any technology company, keeping up to date with technologies, it's obviously our thing. It's obviously what we do on a daily basis. I think we have to make sure we can scale rapidly. So as and when demand increases, and of course the teams are out there on a daily basis talking to organizations, we have to be ready for that future challenge. So I think it's that balancing act between having readily available resource and bringing new resource in. We have a continuous inflow of staff into our business, interns coming into the business, etc. So one of the key challenges or opportunities, I suppose, is around being resource ready. As and when the demand flies in, we can then deal with that. We are fortunate, of course, there's 21 staff in this region, but then there's 3,500 staff globally who all can operate some elements of our solutions. So again, for us, that's probably one of the key points.
So how are property management companies using data to solve today's problems?
I think this vertical, and in fact most of the verticals which we operate, have huge amounts of data, massive data storage provisions. However, how much information do they have? So, I always coin this phrase about being data-rich, information poor. I think what we're being very, very passionate about now is to draw in validation at point of entry. So as and when a solution is being operated, are we making sure that the data is valid, making sure that the user interface ensures that the user's putting there the data that you would expect them to put in there? Because I think ultimately, if we can draw out the information out of those holistic solutions I mentioned earlier on, we can start to then draw some true value from that information. How is a building being used? Who is using that building? What are the costs of the utilities and energy coming into that particular building? How are we costing the facilities management of that building? What is the output of that particular asset? So I think the more and more data we gather, the more and more information that we need and the more value we need to draw from that.
What is the most popularly collected data? How do we collect it and how do we use it?
So I think the most popular collected data is probably free text notes. If I look at the systems, if they're entering their parameterized data or looked up value, there's obviously vast amounts of those which are fairly constructed data. I would suggest that the biggest collected thing is notes and free text fields. How they're used is actually quite poorly. So what we've tried to is move people away from using free text notes where possible into using more parameterized, more structured data, because you can draw value from that. You can't draw value from free text notes. Very, very, very difficult.
For a lot of owners and property managers, the cost of investing in new platforms and new data systems is not worth it. What would you say to them?
Again, trying to draw information from data, I would always question why you're gathering an information set. Why are you gathering that data? Because I agree that there is cost with every data collection. There's a cost of something to it, but it's why you're getting it. That's always the challenge back to the organisation. Because if you gather what you need to make value-based decisions using that information, then absolutely the value should be there. If you're gathering just because you just are without a particular outcome reason, I would suggest to not do that. So for me, it's about understanding why you're asking the question, understanding what you're ultimately going to do with that information that you've collected, because actually if you can draw value from that, that's a reason to do it. If you can't, then I would suggest don't gather it.
Despite the obvious benefits of adopting new data systems, there is limited uptake in emerging markets. Why is that? Is it a cost factor or is it a lack of control they perceive?
I think there is a perceived lack of control. I think there's always people who have spreadsheets with information on there that they kind of know and they are custodians of that. And there is always that barrier to adoption because people, once it goes into a database structure where other people can see it, there is always that fear that they lose that control. And I've been in prop tech for 26 years now, and I've had so many conversations, debates, arguments over the years with people who have spreadsheets where they know that they have that full control over it. It's very, very difficult. What I would say is that once it rolls into a formal database structure, the actual value then that the wider organisation can gain far outweighs any other part of it, because the ability then for other people then to see and utilise that data is generally always more valuable than not. I think any perceived costs to adoption of a technology platform should be borne out of and should always be challenged back to any vendor of actually how is this going to change my business. And one thing we're very keen on at MRI is to always have those conversations, consultancy-led discussions, bringing forward best practice, what other organisations have done. Again, that's one of our key drivers really for our business.
Okay, so what is the future, according to you, of data-driven maintenance?
I think the future's still to be defined. I could tell you what my prediction is for it. I think calendar-based maintenance is absolutely a strategy and a thing that everyone, of course, does now. What we're looking at launching into the early part of 2023 is a more digitally driven maintenance platform, whereby maintenance is dynamically created based upon the use of an asset. For example, how many times is a door open and closed before someone goes out to go and clean that particular facility? How many times has a light been switched on and off before the bulb needs to be changed? How often has a HVAC unit been run? How many hours has it been run for before it's serviced? Trying to do more servicing based upon the actual use of that, as opposed to we will go and clean this facility every hour even if no one's used it. So I think the future's very, very exciting in this. I think there's huge amounts of technology around Internet of Things, integration with building management systems, whereby so much more can be drawn out of the usage of those assets, and that's where we're going to be driving towards. And I certainly think our launch, probably about April time next year, that will be something to keep an eye on.
And my last question is, what is the scope of using artificial intelligence and machine learning in buildings?
Most reporting goes back and looks back at history. Every dashboard we look at is what has already happened. What we don't do is then look forward. And I think that's where artificial intelligence and machine learning are going to come in. One of the advantages of our ecosystem is we have vast amounts of data in our products, and all the wider ones I spoke about to you earlier on. What we're looking at doing now is looking back at trends and looking back at what happened when, and trying to predict the future. I think AI and ML are the ones that will do more predictive maintenance, more looking at scenario-based, what happened when, what happened when there was a large event in this particular hotel that we're in now. How did that facility behave? How did we have to construct, the teams and the response teams on that particular part because there was a large event in this particular hotel? For me, it's all around that. It's all around using the data that we already know, predicting based on that around machine learning then about what the future is going to hold. And I think as well, tying in with IoT, BMS, all those systems there is where we're going to get to.
Thank you so much for talking to CM Today, Mr. Massey.
Thank you so much for having me. It's very kind. Thank you very much.